We're going to come back to you. At this point, I'll just tell you a little story, and then I'd like to bring Hindol in. So Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson have had this thing going for a very long time, and that's a particularly favorite instance of mine. So once they decide to go camping, and this is Dr. Watson's opportunity to prove his mettle, suddenly in the middle of the night they wake up, and you find Sherlock Holmes asking Dr. Watson, "Can you describe what you're feeling right now?" So we've all known the power of observation and the power of deduction and analytical reasoning that Sherlock Holmes has used as a and deployed at different instances and different points in time. So Dr. Watson goes about describing in great detail as to the direction of the wind, the clear sky, and the number of stars that are twinkling up above, and everything, the trees, the humidity, and then Sherlock Holmes, after a point, just gives up and says, "You fool, don't you realize our tent has been stolen?" The diversity or dialogue or the problems, the nature of the discourse in terms of freedom, it's a bit like that. We talk beautifully, we articulate eloquently, and especially when it comes to the idea of politics and the business and the political economy of the media and the way we receive and express freedom and make our choices. That is the point at which I'd like to bring you in, Hindol, because liberalization truly has been the watershed era for the discourse in media and the presence of media, the proliferation of media. And your book, I've had the privilege of reading just a chapter by accident, but I think it's beautifully well written. And like Lord Meghnad Desai has gone on to say, if we all had the language and the power that you do, we'd try and articulate the same experience. But tell me, what do you think has happened to the idea of freedom? And you're a great believer in hope. You've at one point in time also mentioned that our per capita hope has gone up as a country. So what do you see? Where do you see this discourse going?
Thank you very much. You've been very kind. Beginning, of course, by saying that Sherlock Holmes and Watson have had a thing going for a long time, which, of course, can mean many things. Um, but but let's begin at hope. It's an interesting thing. I actually, um, there's several important things that Mihir said, and before that, Shoma was mentioning. I agree with Mihir that it is impossible and indeed unfair to expect any media organization to fulfill the diversity of hope and aspiration that a country of India, of the size of India, and really, the kind of diversity that India has, cannot be subsumed by the product of one media organization. What really worries me, and I've actually said this before to you in your film also, what worries me is what Shoma was mentioning. What worries me is this mobocracy. What worries me is that essentially we, for the first time, at least in my adult life or my, in my formative years, in India at least, we have ensured that we treasure the idea of stupidity. Anybody is free to say anything. And because they have the right and we are a democracy, they should say it, and we should see it, and we should hear it. And God forbid you ever say anything is stupid, because that would go against the fundamental democratic rights that every Indian citizen has. And I think Shoma was making this very, very important point, that before you said anything, there was this idea that we grew up with, that for you to have the freedom to say anything in public, you must fulfill certain criteria, right? You must go through what Shoma called the apprenticeship process for you to be able to articulate anything, or have indeed the platform to articulate. Now it's no longer true. Anybody can say anything, and I am particularly scared of the mob and the sheer levels of, and I despair about this, that anybody in India can say anything and that's justified. We have this great talent of justifying everybody and everything through numbers. कि जी 10,000 लोग आ गए तो ये सही होगा, 5,000 लोग इकट्ठा हो गए तो ये सही होगा. अरे हमारे देश में तो 5,000 लोग, I was recently in Europe and they said, Milan has 1 million people. Mayur Vihar, for crying out loud, has 1 million people, So numbers, this justification with numbers, that so many people came and therefore it must be true. That is what is scary to me, because anybody today is a public intellectual, I mean, even in journalism, and Mihir will bear me out on this, the crop of journalists, and we are all included in this. I mean, earlier it took years before you got a particular designation. Even more years before you became, anything close to a senior editor or, in the top editorial management. Today, anybody gets the designation of editor, and you don't know what kind of grooming they've gone through. You don't know what they've reported, what are the big stories they've broken. And let me be honest and say, I'm also a beneficiary of this process. All of us are a beneficiary of this process. But just because I'm a beneficiary of this process doesn't make the process right. And therefore, there is a problem with that process. The other big thing that I despair about is this entire thing about democratic dividend, right? And this entire idea of freedom of saying anything because you're young. Suddenly in this country today, today also in Times of India, this entire thing about why can't we have younger people, right? And we're all, again, beneficiaries to this, right? I mean, I run an organization, so does Karthik. We're all, younger people here. What is this thing about, or obsession about having younger people? What does it really mean? I see stupid young people every single day of my life. People who have not read anything, people who don't understand anything, people who don't have any politics, people who don't have any understanding of the country, people who haven't traveled in the country or abroad for that matter, or anywhere for that matter, and they have an opinion. And because they're young, we should celebrate that. These are the scary things to me about the age that we live in. That young must be celebrated, the numbers must be celebrated. And because you have followers on Twitter, it must be celebrated, right? I mean, where does that come from? And what kind of people? I mean, I have very few followers on Twitter, and obviously I'm not saying the right things to get more. And I actually keep, less and less people seem to follow me, which is, well, clearly not a good thing for me. But I sometimes look at the list of people who are following me on Twitter. Real estate agent Manoj is one of my followers who constantly replies to things, right? The other one is dietitian Manisha, right? I mean, who are these people? And this is what makes me afraid for India and for the freedoms that we are talking about. I really believe, and it's important for me we're talking so much about freedom and what people should be allowed to do. It's a simplistic idea, and of course there are problems with that idea too, as there are problems with all ideas. But even in school, we were taught this idea that with, our freedoms came something called our duties, right? And we don't have a concept of that anymore. Nobody has a concept that I must be able to do this before I can even question something. I must earn the ability even to question. And I'm obviously not saying if you face an injustice from the state or from anywhere else, you shouldn't raise a voice. The two things are entirely different. I'm saying when you come about and question, this entire critique of public policy. Who the fuck are you to question public policy? What do you know? At least have some sense of what you're talking about before you critique something. It's all very well to say, oh, we are all together against corruption. What do you know about the nuances of corruption? How much have you bothered to even say about or understand about corruption or read about corruption to critique public policy? So this idea that public policy is my new toy, like the iPhone. So I must have the right to, play with it and critique it like I critique my iPhone. That is what scares me. And therefore, my great fear, and if I may say so before I hand the microphone over to Subi, about freedom, is that we are fast becoming a country where the stupidity of the many becomes, something that we must treasure. And that really is a scary thought.
Thank you, Indol. We'll certainly try and beep certain parts out so that it's free and fair for consumption. It's interesting that you raise these points. A lot of these are deep discomforts that I have shared over time. But in parts, I'd beg to disagree with you, because a lot of times the youth, so to speak, and I think you're alluding to what we know as the demographic dividend, and it is something that we've all had reservations against. But the fact that you can get these numbers to come out and talk, and you can always counter this talk with more talk, there's a lot of angst. I think we've also, if per capita hope has gone up, we've also become a very angry nation. And a lot of this anger needs to be articulated. What the new media has done, and that's what will bring me to Anshul here. And I know that there are a lot of people who are very wary as to what new media in particular and social media more generally does to civil society. A lot of them have downright questioned the idea of new media, and it's almost the recent bill which wanted to ascertain and affix responsibility on third-party ISPs, the private members bill that was being introduced in the parliament, it is something that leads us to these questions about what is it that should constitute information and information as public good. When we look at the Article 19.2 and we look at the various reasonable restrictions, what it does not talk about is information and the idea of information as public good. And does that need to be protected? Because that then ties in with the idea of sedition and what is it that you need to be penalized for. Because there are instances where a journalist in Allahabad was tried and put into jail along with her husband. She was just returning from Delhi after having visited the World Book Fair, and she was carrying some literature, some books that were dubbed to be of a Maoist nature. She was put into jail. In Kudankulam, about 55,000 people have been put into jail, stuffed into jail. There's an FIR that's been lodged against them, and 6,500 people out of the 55,000 people carry with them charges of sedition, which is very different from articulating and saying things like, I don't like the government or I don't like what it's doing. These are clearly much more nuanced debates. There are no easy answers, but what has the social media done for us? And is the euphoria around social media justified? Is this new magic wand that's going to change the way democracy functions? And the idea of democracy as a participatory democracy and not merely a representative one. Oh, Anshu.